The Japanese anime industry is bigger and better than ever before, and by the 21st century, it became a truly global sensation with countless fans. By this point, Japanese anime has become more mainstream than ever in the West, from a Monkey D. Luffy parade balloon to celebrities naming certain Pokemon as their personal favorites. Still, Japanese anime isn't as thoroughly ingrained in the pop culture landscape as Western franchises like Star Trek and The Lord of the Rings, so anime is still foreign to plenty of consumers. Anime fans jokingly call non-anime fans normies, and while normies have certainly at least heard of Pokemon before, non-anime fans know next to nothing about the anime industry at large. This has led to a variety of misconceptions about what anime is like, and non-fans may have the totally wrong idea about what anime is and isn't. That might include sweeping generalizations, for example, or believing that just one anime series is an example of what all anime is like. The reality, meanwhile, tells an entirely different story.
Anime is only for children. Plenty of series are written for older audiences. This might be one of the biggest misconceptions about Japanese anime. In the Western world, there is a general trend where animated shows and movies are for young viewers, while live-action productions are meant for older audiences. However, there are already plenty of Western animated shows to disprove this generalization, such as BoJack Horseman. Being colorful and animated does not always mean kid-oriented, though some anime really is meant for kids, such as Doraemon. Then there are series that appeal to viewers of all ages, such as shonen action series. And then there are R-rated anime series that parents should actually discourage their children from watching. The likes of Monster and Attack on Titan, for example, are too grown up for young eyes.
Anime is an accurate representation of Japanese people. Instead, anime is designed with Japanese audiences in mind. There may be the idea that if anime is made and set in Japan, then the contents of anime will accurately show what life is like in Japan, but that's only partly true. Some series do feature real-life settings in Japan and may even use photos as backgrounds, but otherwise, anime is hardly an inside peek at real daily life in Japan.
All anime is like Dragon Ball. Not even all shonen anime is like Dragon Ball. Non-anime fans are generally correct that Akira Toriyama's Dragon Ball looms large in the anime world and had a big influence, but it's a serious oversimplification to say that all anime is like Dragon Ball. The reality is that the shonen Big Three all drew heavy inspiration from it, as did a variety of more recent series. But even those shows have distinct voices to set them apart from Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball embodies some familiar traits of anime, while lacking others, meaning it's an incomplete example of what anime is like. Dragon Ball has staples like wacky comedy, the power of friendship, and rivalries, but it lacks such things as high school slice of life, mecha, horror, and romance, among others. In fact, it's fair to say that not even all shonen anime is like Dragon Ball, with series like Chainsaw Man and Sword Art Online being wildly different than Akira Toriyama's creation.
Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball tells the tale of a young warrior by the name of Son Goku, a young peculiar boy with a tail who embarks on a quest to become stronger and learns of the Dragon Balls when, once all 7 are gathered, grant any wish of choice. Created by Akira Toriyama. First film, Dragon Ball Curse of the Blood Rubies. Latest film, Dragon Ball Super Superhero. First TV show, Dragon Ball. Latest TV show, Dragon Ball Super. Upcoming TV shows, Dragon Ball Daima. First episode air date, April 26, 1989. Cast, Brian Drummond, Scott McNeil, Christopher Sabat, Laura Bailey, Sean Schemmel. Current series, Dragon Ball Super.
Anime has lots of lewd content. This is a trend in anime but isn't universal, compared to many Western. This may range from tasteful partial nudity or sexual scenes all the way to shallow, gratuitous fan. Fan service can be done right, but that doesn't mean every anime tries it. Plenty of anime series have no fan service even if they include characters who would be ideal for S. It's accurate to say that somewhat lewd content is a trend in anime, but it's far from universal and
Anime has terrible translations and dubs. This used to be somewhat true, but no longer. It's true that some anime series had cheap and sloppy subtitles or bad dubs, and some series are notorious for it, such as ghost stories. The good news is that anime in the West now has much higher quality subtitles and English dub work, making these series much more palatable for the viewer. The English voices may still sound a tad silly or cheesy at times, but the dub industry has made serious strides recently.
10 reasons why the One Piece live action should become the industry standard. Netflix's live-action One Piece series does many things right that other adaptations don't, such as perfect casting with Iñaki Godoy as Luffy. It may be the lack of popular actors and voice actors in anime who lead normies to think that anime has bad English voices. Fortunately, the actual dub voice actors are quite good at what they do, and the Studio Ghibli movies actually do have mainstream celebrities voicing roles, such as Christian Bale in Howl's Moving Castle. Other major names like Cate Blanchett and Dave Bautista appear in such movies too.
Shonen, shoujo, seinen, and josei are demographics. These are actually demographics that span various genres. Normies might hear terms like shonen and shoujo to describe anime, and they and casual anime fans might believe that these describe genres of anime. These are actually demographics, describing the target audience in broad terms. In fact, that's how the four terms get their names, such as shonen being young male and josei being older female. These four demographics make use of familiar genres in their works, with each demographic having clear preferences. Shonen is mostly about action and comedy, while shoujo is more about drama and romance. And seinen may have drama and sci-fi, while josei is romance and drama, not unlike shoujo. That said, there's plenty of overlap with genres, not rigid boundaries between the demographics.
Seinen anime is always brutal and dark compared to shonen. Seinen can be like that, but doesn't have to be. Anyone with a passing familiarity with anime might get the impression that seinen anime for older adult males is entirely R-rated action and horror. The reality is that while seinen is allowed to have more brutal and adult content than shonen and shoujo, it doesn't always do so. For every anime like Gantz and Vinland Saga, there's also a My Dress-Up Darling and a laid-back camp. This is simply because, like any other demographic, older male audiences enjoy a variety of content, not just anime that would remind them of Quentin Tarantino or John Woo movie. Seinen is a mixed bag about light versus dark content, and in the broader anime world, fans might say that light-hearted content definitely outweighs the darker, more brutal series.
Shonen anime is only about action. It also includes slice of life and romance. Action and adventure definitely dominate the shonen demographic of anime, but it's not universal. Shonen fans enjoy a variety of content, so shonen creators cater to those tastes with plenty of genres beyond action and adventure. In fact, some series blur the line and might be understandably confused with shoujo.
Does the anime industry have a nostalgia bait problem? From Cardcaptor Sakura to Urusei Yatsura, anime sequels and reboots benefit the industry, for the most part, anyway. Some examples include Horimiya and Komi Can't Communicate, both of which are shonen high school romances that primarily have a male audience in mind, but also have strong appeal for female viewers. Fans might say that this reinforces the idea that anime is for everyone, and viewers must not concern themselves too much on what they should watch, based on demographics-based terms like shonen.
Anime is purely animated shows from Japan. Anime has a subjective and broader meaning. This is one of the most confusing aspects of the anime industry. What is anime? For casual Western pop culture fans, the answer seems clear: animated shows and movies made in Japan. This is only part of the larger picture of how anime is defined, since it's actually a matter of perspective. To start with, Non-fans should be aware that in Japan, anime describes any media that's animated, including Western productions. From their point of view, Batman the Animated Series is anime, as is Inside Out 2. However, Western audiences are used to anime describing Japanese animation as something more distinct, so the term is still used accordingly. For casual fans, this definition may suffice in everyday conversation, but non-fans must at least be aware that the meaning of anime is more nuanced and broader than those cartoon shows from Japan.
Anime has lots of harems. It's relatively common, but not a staple. This is another element of anime that's certainly more common than it is in Western fiction. Harems. Most often, these are self-gratifying stories of a relatable, generic male lead having many attractive girls fond of him, and reverse harems do something similar in shoujo and josei anime. Harems are also rather common in isekai anime, though some isekai might subvert or ignore this concept. That said, harems aren't as common in anime as non-fans might be led to believe. Since harems are a rarity for non-anime fans of pop culture, a little of that goes a long way and will lead to false impressions about how common it is. If new anime fans don't like the idea of harems, they have ample choices for non-harem adventure and romance series that have more typical narratives about relationships, such as love triangles.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're plunging into the incredible world of anime.
Yeah, it's pretty huge now.
It really is. You know, it's gone from this niche thing to, a global sensation. We're talking huge Monkey D. Luffy parade balloons.
All right.
Celebrities openly saying Pokemon are their favorites. It's just kind of everywhere. And while it's definitely more mainstream here in the West than it used to be, for a lot of us, it can still feel a bit unfamiliar compared to, say, Star Trek or The Lord of the Rings.
Definitely. Still a bit of an unknown quantity for many.
Exactly. So the big question is, I guess, what is anime, really, beyond what, a casual observer might pick up?
Okay, let's try and unpack this.
And that unfamiliarity, that perception, it's absolutely led to some really widespread misunderstandings.
Okay.
We often see everything from these, sweeping generalizations or people thinking just one series defines the whole medium.
Right, like one show is anime. Exactly. So our mission today in this deep dive is really to pull back the curtain on these common misconceptions, help you understand what anime truly is, and maybe just as importantly, what it isn't, based on the material we've looked at.
Sounds good.
Because the reality, as you'll see, it tells a completely different, much richer story.
Okay, so let's tackle maybe one of the biggest ones first. This idea that anime is only for children.
Ah, yes. The classic.
Feels like a very Western thing, right?
Yeah.
Animated shows are for kids, live action is for grown-ups. Is that fair at all?
It's a super common assumption, yeah.
Yeah.
But it really doesn't hold up, not even if you just look at Western animation.
Oh.
Think about shows like BoJack Horseman. Clearly not for kids,
Yeah.
right? Even though it's animated.
True. Good point.
So just because something's colorful and animated, that doesn't automatically mean it's aimed at, young viewers.
Okay.
Now, don't get me wrong, there is anime truly meant for kids. Like Doraemon is a perfect example, a classic. But that's just one small part of this huge spectrum. You've got loads of shonen action series, for instance, that appeal across all ages. Kids, teens, adults, everyone watches them. But then you swing the other way, and you have genuinely R-rated anime series that parents should absolutely definitely keep their kids away from.
Like what kind of shows?
Well, titles like Monster or Attack on Titan, these are way too mature, too intense for young eyes.
Okay, so a really wide range then. Definitely not just for kids.
Not at all.
That makes sense. So sticking with the made in Japan idea, there's another thought that floats around. Because it originates there, often set in Japanese cities, it must be like an accurate window into daily life.
Ah, that one. Yeah, it's only partly true. It's an interesting point. While some series do use real-life Japanese settings, sometimes they even use photos as backgrounds to make it feel authentic.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But anime is rarely, an actual inside peek at everyday life. It really plays by its own rules.
Its own rules.
Yeah. It often leaves out certain aspects of real Japanese culture, or flips it and adds fantastical elements, twists reality to fit the story.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Think about, the crazy colorful hair on characters, or school uniforms that are way more elaborate and,
well, stylish than anything you'd see in a real Japanese high school.
Right, yeah.
Or even students showing up to school in fancy sports cars. It's all built for drama, for the narrative, not really for realistic depiction.
Gotcha. It's entertainment first, not a documentary.
Exactly.
Okay, let's talk about a giant in the room. Dragon Ball.
The big one.
For a lot of people not deep into anime, that's the first thing, maybe the only thing they think of. And look, they're not wrong about its influence, right? Like, Akira Toriyama's work is huge.
Oh, undeniably. It looms very large.
But suggesting all anime is like Dragon Ball, that feels like a serious oversimplification, doesn't it?
It absolutely is. A massive one. I mean, yes, the famous Shonen Big Three and loads of newer series, they definitely grew heavy inspiration from Dragon Ball. But even those shows developed their own distinct voices, their own styles. Yeah. Dragon Ball is famous for that specific blend, wacky comedy, the power of friendship, intense rivalries.
Totally.
But what's really interesting is what it doesn't have. It mostly skips over really popular anime tropes like high school slice of life stories.
Right. No Kakarot high school blues.
Exactly. Or giant mecha, real horror, complex romance. It just wasn't focused on those things. So yeah, it defined a generation, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's just one flavor in a massive, massive buffet.
Well put. And even within shonen, not everything is a Dragon Ball clone. You just look at something like Chainsaw Man.
Wildly different.
Or Sword Art Online. Totally different tones, different goals. Dragon Ball itself, with Son Goku, the Dragon Balls, it carved its own unique path. It first hit TV way back, 1989? And we're still getting new stuff. The superhero movie recently, Dragon Ball Daima is coming.
So going strong.
Yeah. And the voices, like Sean Schemmel as Goku, they're legendary. It's a huge achievement. But like you said, it's far from the entire anime universe.
Precisely.
Okay. Shifting gears slightly, there's also this perception, maybe a bit sensitive, that anime often uses, let's say, PG-13 or suggestive content to kind of spice things up, often aimed at guys.
Right. That's definitely a conversation people have. And, well, it's true that compared to a lot of Western shows, you can find this trend in anime more often.
Okay.
It ranges, from maybe some tasteful partial nudity to much more overt fan service.
Fan service, right.
And this is really crucial. It's far from universal. It isn't a staple you find in every show. Not by a long shot.
So not all anime has it.
No, definitely not. Plenty of anime series have zero fan service. Even shows with characters who you might think would be candidates for it, like, say, Your Forger in Spy X Family. Great character, awesome show, no fan service needed.
Interesting, okay. So it exists, but it's not like a defining feature of all anime.
Exactly. It's a trend in some corners, not a rule for the whole medium.
And what about harems? That's another one you hear about.
Oh, harems, yes.
They definitely seem more common than in Western fiction. The setup. One kind of relatable main guy, lots of attractive girls who like him.
Or the reverse harem, yeah. One girl, multiple guys, often in shoujo or shosei anime.
Right. And you see a lot in isekai too, don't you? Transported to another world genre.
It's pretty common there.
Right.
But again, while harems are more prevalent in anime than in Western pop culture, they're probably not quite as common as a non-fan might think.
Why is that?
Well, I think because they're such a rarity in the West, any exposure to them in anime makes them seem more widespread than they actually are. It's like, oh, look, another one, even if there's still a minority of shows overall.
That makes sense. Scarcity makes it stand out more.
Exactly. And the good news for, new anime fans who maybe aren't into that kind of setup, there are plenty of choices for non-harem series. Shows with more typical relationship stories, love triangles, you name it.
So you don't have to look too hard to avoid them if you want to.
Not at all. Ample choices.
Okay, good to know. Now here's a big one. And to be fair, maybe this one used to be more true. The idea that anime has terrible translations and dubs.
Oof, yeah. The dub versus sub wars.
Right. I mean, some of us definitely remember older series with, let's just say, less than stellar subtitles. Or really, really awkward English dubs. Ghost Stories comes to mind.
Oh, Ghost Stories is legendary for its dub, but in a very specific, they just made stuff up kind of way. But yes, you're absolutely right. That was a valid criticism for a long time. Cheap translations, bad acting.
So what's the situation now?
The industry has made massive strides. Huge improvements. The really good news is that anime you get in the West now generally features much, much higher quality subtitles and honestly, excellent English dub work too.
Really? So the dubs are good now?
Many are fantastic. It makes the series way more enjoyable and accessible if you prefer not to read subtitles. Now about the voice acting. Sometimes people think the voices are bad because they aren't, famous Hollywood actors.
Right, no big movie stars.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the actual dub voice actors, they're incredibly talented professionals who specialize in this. It's a real crash.
Yeah.
And actually, fun fact, Studio Ghibli movies do often feature mainstream celebrities.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Christian Bale was Howl in Howl's Moving Castle, Kate Blanchett, Dave Bautista.
Yeah.
They've all done voices for Ghibli films, so sometimes you do get those big names.
Huh, I didn't know that about Bale. And we've even seen this push for quality beyond animation, haven't we? Like, look at Netflix's live-action One Piece.
Yes, great example.
The casting there, especially Iñaki Godoy as Luffy, people really loved it. It shows the industry is serious about getting these adaptations right, whether it's animation or live action.
Absolutely, a big step up from some older attempts.
Okay, let's talk about some specific terms.
Yeah.
Shonen, shoujo, seinen, yosei. These words pop up a lot.
They do.
And I think a lot of people, maybe even casual fans, hear them and think they're talking about genres, like shonen is the action genre.
Yeah, that's a super common mix-up, but it's a really important clarification to make. These are actually demographics.
Demographics.
Meaning
Right.
they describe the target audience the anime or manga is primarily made for. That's where the names come from. Shonen literally means like young male. Josei means older female.
Oh, okay. So it's about who it's aimed at, not what it is genre-wise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, sure, each demographic tends to have general genre preferences. Shonen often does lean heavily into action and comedy. Shoujo often focuses more on drama and romance.
And seinen and yosei?
Seinen, aimed at older males, might feature more drama, sci-fi, maybe psychological stuff. Josei, for older females, often explores romance and drama too, sometimes with more mature themes than shoujo.
Okay.
But, and this is key, there's a ton of overlap with genres. These are not rigid boundaries saying shonen must be action. It's much more fluid than that.
Right. It's a target, not a cage.
Perfectly put.
So, following on from that, seinen, aimed at older adult males, does that automatically mean it's all going to be, brutal, dark, full of R-rated action and horror? Is that the deal?
That's another very common impression, yeah. Oh, seinen, that's the really hardcore stuff. And look, seinen is allowed to have more brutal and adult content than shonen or shoujo. It's designed for a mature audience, so the creators have more freedom there.
Okay.
But it definitely doesn't always go that route. Not even close. For every really intense seinen series, like, say, Gantz or the historical grit of Vinland Saga,
Right.
you also get incredibly lighthearted, even sweet seinen anime. Like My Dress-Up Darling, that's seinen. It's a delightful romantic comedy.
Wait, My Dress-Up Darling is seinen? I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yep. Or something like Laid Back Camp, which is just super chill, relaxing slice of life about camping. Also seinen.
Wow, okay.
But it just shows that, like any audience group, older male viewers enjoy a wide variety of stuff, not just dark and intense series. Honestly, across all anime, the lighthearted content probably outweighs the really dark, brutal stuff significantly.
That really broadens the picture. Okay, same logic but for shonen. We said it leans towards action-adventure, and that definitely seems true for the big hits.
Action is definitely a huge part of shonen.
But is it only about action? Is that universal for the shonen demographic?
Not at all. Far from universal. Again, shonen fans, typically teenage boys, but really a wider audience enjoys it. They like different things too.
Makes sense.
So creators absolutely cater to that. There are plenty of shonen genres beyond action and adventure. You get lots of slice of life, comedy, and even pure romance series published in shonen magazines or platforms.
Can you give examples there?
Sure. Think about Horimiya. That's a shonen high school romance. Or Komi, Can't Communicate. Also, shonen focuses on communication, friendship, and romance.
Both really popular shows, too.
Exactly. And while they're primarily aimed at a male audience, they have a huge crossover appeal. Lots of female viewers love them too because the characters and stories are just really relatable and charming.
And I guess this just reinforces that whole idea, doesn't it? That anime really is for everyone. You shouldn't worry too much about, oh, I'm not a teenage boy, so I can't watch shonen.
Please don't, yeah. Just dive in and explore. Find what connects with you.
Okay, this brings us maybe to the most fundamental question and potentially the most confusing one for newcomers. What is anime anyway?
What big definition question.
Yeah. For most of us in the West, the answer seems obvious, right? It's animated shows and movies made in Japan. Simple.
That's the common Western understanding, yes.
But is that the whole story? Or is there more to it?
It's only one part of a much larger, more nuanced picture. And this is where cultural context really kicks in.
Huss.
In Japan, the word anime, which is just their shortening of animation, is actually used to describe any animated media, regardless of where it came from.
Wait, any animation?
Any animation. So from a Japanese perspective, something like Batman, the animated series, that's anime. A Pixar movie like Inside Out 2, also anime.
Whoa. Okay, that's different.
It is. So while the Western definition, specifically Japanese animation is perfectly fine for everyday chat, it's just a good little thing for non-fans maybe to be aware of, that the actual meaning of anime over there is broader, more complex than just those cartoon shows from Japan.
It kind of opens your mind a bit, doesn't it? How different cultures classify things.
It really does.
Yeah.
So if we try to tie all this together,
Mm.
what's the core insight here after looking at all these points?
Yeah, what's the main takeaway?
I think it's that the world of anime is just far more expansive, way more diverse, and much more nuanced than those common Western perceptions often suggest.
Okay.
It's definitely not a single monolithic genre. It's not one singular cultural thing. It's more like this vast, rich tapestry of storytelling.
All right.
And it really offers something for pretty much every age, every taste, and every kind of experience you can imagine.
So the message is, don't judge the book by its cover, or maybe the whole library by one book.
Exactly. Don't let one show or one misconception define the entire medium for you.
And as you, the listener, encounter more of this global phenomenon, because it's everywhere, we really hope you can approach it with this deeper understanding. Embrace the variety, question those initial assumptions. So what does this all mean for you as you maybe explore more anime?
Yeah, what should you take forward?
Well, here's something just to kind of mull over, a final thought. If even the very definition of anime can change depending on your perspective, on your cultural context, what other widely accepted cultural definitions out there might be more subjective, more layered than we initially assume?